On TVC Breakfast this morning, we will take a look at the role of the media, how the media contributed to the June the 12th struggle and its aftermath. Later on the show, reps launch investigation into alleged USAID support for Boko Haram.
Good morning and thank you for joining us on the Monday edition of TVC Breakfast. I'm Veronica Dan Ikboy. Let's quickly bring you the news update at this time. President Bola Tinubu has announced significant progress in fighting insecurity across Zamfara, Sokoto, Katsina, Borno and Kebbi states, stating that security conditions have improved by 90%. The president's message was delivered by the Minister of Defense, Muhammad Abubakar, who attributed the improvement to the government's investment in modern equipment and advanced training for security agencies. On the economy, President Tinubu noted that food prices are beginning to drop, emphasizing his administration's commitment to easing economic hardship. He reassured Nigerians that ongoing efforts by relevant authorities would soon make both security challenges and economic difficulties a thing of the past. And now, Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa of Ondo State says his administration will expand the tourism and investment prospects of the state. The governor spoke at a media parley held at the Araromi seaside as part of the programs lined up for his inauguration. Senior reporter Ayodeji Muradeo has details.
The choice of the Araromi seaside in the larger local government area of Ondo State for the media parley was aimed at showcasing the tourism potential of the state. It was a fun-filled atmosphere as the event was not all about speech making. The state cultural troupe and popular Nigerian singers Daddy Shoki and Tenny Makanaki entertained the governor, top government functionaries and dignitaries.
The potential for revenue generation in Ondo State really can hit up to 5 billion.
The governor took time to explain what he has to offer the people of the state in the next 4 years. He intends to focus on agriculture development, boosting tourism potential, and providing jobs for the teeming unemployed youth, among other initiatives.
We are going to clear lands for our people. We are going to support them with inputs and equipment. We are going to procure equipment for farming. All of this we do, and above all, we provide security for our farmers. Where we have shortages and trying to recruit more teachers into that area.
He also expressed his willingness to complete all ongoing projects in the state.
Every government that comes into power will definitely build roads. You maintain the existing roads and you build new ones. And exactly that we will do. We will build new roads, we will maintain the old one. And you can see, even when I came on board within the first 1 year, towards the end of last year, after the election,
it was indeed a special time for those who were at the Araromi seaside as they enjoyed the natural endowment. Ayodeji Muradeo, TVC News, Araromi.
All right, all roads leads to Ondo State today, where the governor will be inaugurated later on, and you're sure that TVC will bring you all the details as event unfold. Moving on now to this story, where the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, that's NAFDAC, has intensified its crackdown on the illegal drug trade, shutting down over 11,000 shops in major drug markets across Aba, Onitsha and Idumota. The agency also arrested 40 individuals linked to the sale of unregistered and dangerous drugs. We have more details in this report.
The ongoing crackdown on illicit drug trade by NAFDAC has led to the closure of 3,027 shops at Idumota Market, Lagos State, 4,000 shops in Onitsha Market, Anambra State, and another 4,000 in Osisioma Market, Abia State. The Director General revealed shocking discoveries, including vaccines that require refrigeration being stored improperly, expired substances and condoms that should have been destroyed as far back as 2022, and even donated U.S. aid products, such as free antiretroviral drugs. The agency also seized banned tramadol, along with machines used to fraudulently extend the expiration dates of medicines from 2022 or 2023 to 2028. She said the operation, which has spanned over 3 weeks, with support from the National Security Advisor and the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria, has also received concerns from traders.
It is high time we did something. Like I said a week plus ago, enough is enough. We love trade. We have Office of Trade and International Relations in NAFDAC. We want to foster trade, but not at the detriment of our people, not on the back of our people. But again, this process continues. We want to be sure that the people that are supposed to sell medicines are the ones selling medicines.
Many of the seized drugs were smuggled into the country without registration in NAFDAC's database, posing a serious threat to public health. Professor Adeleke acknowledged the challenges faced by the agency, highlighted the extensive security collaboration required for the operation. Over 1,000 security personnel were deployed, including 400 officers in Onitsha, 350 in Aba, and 250 in Idumota.
This has been a covert operation for about a year, and again, without NSA we couldn't have done it. We have 1,000 forces working with us, donated equipment, vehicles for us, for me and you. They are doing it for the security of the country. It is mind-boggling that these are all controlled substances.
The agency has advised Nigerians to take caution when purchasing medications by buying drugs from reputable pharmacy stores. The agency is also calling on the federal government to tighten border security to prevent the smuggling of counterfeit drugs. As the operation expands to other states, NAFDAC is working closely with sister agencies to ensure strict compliance with pharmaceutical regulations.
Outside Nigeria, the Vatican says Pope Francis remains in critical condition with blood tests showing mild signs of kidney failure, which is currently under control. It added that the pontiff has not shown further respiratory crisis since yesterday evening. Some of his blood tests indicate an initial mild renal failure, which is currently under control, the Vatican said. It also said that the Pope continues to be vigilant and well-oriented. Pope Francis, who continues to receive oxygen, took part in the Holy Mass from the apartment set up on the 10th floor of Gemelli Hospital on Sunday morning. We'll take a breather now. When we return, it will be time for the newspaper review. Do stay with us. All right, it's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigeria newspapers. And Nelson Atta is right here beside me to bring us up to speed with what the papers are saying. Nelson, it's good to have you on this side.
Indeed, it's good to be here today. You know, what a way to begin a new week, Veronica.
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe that there are so many stories dominating the papers this morning.
Absolutely, and a lot of stories, especially in politics.
Right, take it away then.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the newspaper review segment right here on TVC Breakfast. It's a new week, and that's how we would begin with the Nation newspaper this morning, with a very wonderful caption right there about the just concluded Osun Council poll. Adeleke breached oath of office, says APC. Governors bars chairman from secretariat. Well, you know, there's been this debacle, Veronica, between the PDP and the APC in Osun State, and we saw the bloodbath that took place there.
Unfortunately, some persons had to lose their life.
Exactly, even though we had, from the beginning of the incident, been calling for peace. But a court had, you know, given an order that the election shouldn't take place, but the governor said irrespective of that, he was going to go on with the election, and it has come and gone.
He went ahead with the election. It's a sad commentary that we're having that kind of situation where someone of his status is not adhering to a court ruling. What kind of precedents are you setting? What kind of message are you passing across? What are you trying to say? What statement are you trying to make?
Indeed.
It's unfortunate. It's a country, we run a democracy and we say we uphold the rule of law. Whatever you intend to do, at the end of the day, the PDP swept all the seats. I mean, so what would one think? That, you know, that he, you know, muffled the whole thing and then ensured that his cronies or his persons are there. But then there have been talks, the police have even said that, no, this election shouldn't even go ahead. Every other persons who are supposed to be stakeholders in the process were speaking to these matters, yet he went ahead. I am wondering how they will take it up from here, even though the APC is saying that, is asking their local government chairman to return to their offices today. I'm wondering how this whole matter will pan out today. I'll be looking forward to what comes out of it.
Let's see, indeed, like you just said. And something right there, how states can boost tax revenue by Oyedele. Government raises compensation payment on Lagos-Calabar Highway. We've seen the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, in Lagos, going around inspecting some of the works. And it's great that we are still seeing this compensation still coming on, because a lot of persons haven't yet received what they're supposed to.
I believe it's a gradual process.
Exactly.
Because you cannot phase by phase, phased to ensure that everyone is covered. So if you are not part of those who received compensation in the first phase,
you definitely will
receive compensation in the next phase. So I'm not sure what phase they are right now, but believe your compensation is coming.
Oh my God. Okay, but there's a congratulations or congratulatory note right here, very bold on the Nation newspaper this morning. Senator Jimoh Ibrahim is congratulating the governor of Ondo State, you know, for concluding the tenure of his former boss, Aketi, you know. Now, why I had to pick this up, Veronica, you remember the political conundrum that existed between the two of them when they were contesting for their party's primary, you know. And so to see Jimoh Ibrahim, you know, step down and accept what it has become.
Well, does he have a choice?
Well,
he has no choice. But then one would say it's the spirit of sportsmanship.
Exactly.
Ensuring that, okay, you congratulate someone who took up what both of you were contesting for, but it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
And that's what we let it off for the Nation newspaper this morning as we make our way to the Daily Independent newspaper this morning. Experts see banks benefiting from elevated interest rate environment, urge fiscal monetary authorities unity to tackle inflationary pressures. All right. Again, on politics, Adeleke swears in newly elected Osun local government chairman. We wait to see exactly how that will really play out at the end of the day. SERAP seeks court order to halt CBN's ATM fee increase. We're still talking about tariff hike, Veronica, in various things. One of the things we saw some weeks ago, was the plan to increase fees. Now, once that is done, the end user, Nigerians, who go to the POS and ATMs and so on and forth, to withdraw money, would be the ones to bear the brunt. Why should we always be the ones to bear that?
I think that we need to investigate banks and the kinds of fees they deduct from end users who are using perhaps their services. I mean, you transfer money, you are deducted. You receive money, you are deducted.
You save money.
And then you still want to collect money on what exactly, really? ATMs? Maybe you're also paying money for maintenance of the ATM. I hope you haven't forgotten.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure
you
what
pay money for the SMS and the emails. What exactly else?
Exactly. Oh I mean, you are pressing our necks. It's getting too much.
Please let us breathe for once. And quickly, before we leave the Daily Independent this morning, sacks of VC's governing council affecting universities development. This is according to NAT. Okay. We'll be waiting to see how that would be. But that's where we'll let it off for the Daily Independent as we make our way to the national economy this morning. Veronica, with what we just finished discussing, POS agents to increase charges as CBN tackles cashless ATMs. Now, this is where I'm worried. If ATMs do not have money, who are supposed to have money, why would we turn to POS operators to have the money?
We are encouraging POS operators to thrive, and that is not even helping us. Because
that's the point.
Why should I buy money? Why should I use the Naira to buy Naira?
Exactly what it means.
Well, that's not helping our economy or helping our society. Yes, you are creating jobs and all of it, but then why are we doing this? You go to the ATMs, and then you cannot get as much money. You go across the counter, they are telling you cannot get beyond this certain amount. Maybe you have an emergency and you need a huge sum, they are telling you cannot get it.
Now remember, that's an amount if you go to the POS operator.
They'll get them. How do they get those monies? Now you go to parties, you see people spraying monies and you wonder,
where is it coming from?
I thought the bank says we cannot get so amount. Where are these people getting monies from?
Like you said, we need to investigate. And something at the bottom of the paper this morning, Nigeria setting new path in electricity supply chain. That sounds like some good news in electricity, and I'm really interested in this one. But that's where we will let it off for the national economy as we make our way to the leadership newspaper this morning. At the top nameplate of the leadership, we see federal government spends $8 billion to stabilize Naira. This is quoting the Minister of Finance. Well, that's something I need to look a bit deep into to be sure of how the federal government spends that for that purpose. And look at this, corruption in the judiciary. Lawyers blame Nigerian system, sack urgent reforms.
They are seeking urgent
reforms.
Right.
Reforms have, for so long a time, there have been calls for reforms in the judiciary. I think it's become sort of like a broken record, if I would say that. When are we truly to see, reforms in that sector that would be permanent to deliver the kind of justice that we seek to see in this country? Why is it taking so long?
I think reforms begins with the individual. The one who chooses not to be corrupt, as they have written it here. It begins with the individual. And then the leadership of the judiciary, what steps are they taking to ensure that the reforms they know they need, they are pushing that forward strategically, such that we can begin to see the impact in our justice system and every other places where we need them. Justice or the judiciary is said to be the hope of the common man, but when we are seeing corruption slip in...
Maybe the common man has no hope, right?
Nelson, I'm not taking it in that way.
Okay.
Nelson, calm down and listen now. But I'm saying it's critical that we address these matters. If the hope of the common man is hanging on the balance as a result of corruption,
then we have a problem.
There is a challenge.
Yeah, yeah. And so that the lawyers would not only always be pointing accusing fingers to politicians, they too need to put
They play a major role.
Exactly.
In our
order.
democracy, they do.
Because we always take election matters to their table.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it becomes the highest bidder.
Well, you said that.
All right. Telecom's blackout looms as fuel tanker drivers down tolls. This the federal government is fighting strongly to ensure that that is not the case, and we do not want to see that again. But that's what we lit up for the leadership newspaper this morning as we make our way to the Abuja Enquirer. And I see a picture story here, Veronica. You know, I'm co-opting you as my own. Well, I'm with this morning.
You just have to mention that.
Governor Sanwo-Olu is here and the Minister of Information. Wonderful to see this. This was during the minister's visit to, or rather the governor's visit to the minister in Abuja on Friday. Looks good here. But look at this, 15 MDAs at high risk of corruption. This is according to the ICPC. And when the ICPC says this, we need to pay attention. JAMB, 9 others, top 10 on
ethics and integrity.
Integrity. Wow. MD 15, that's a whole lot.
It goes to show how deep corruption has eaten into the fabrics of our society. 15, I am thinking perhaps it might be more than that. And they are just trying to, you know, manage this whole matter.
So that doesn't become
because we do not have full details
on it, right?
Which of the MDAs this is. But it's quite worrisome that these are ministries and agencies that feeds into what we do as a country. And if we are having 15 of them, you know, having this kind of report, then we have a challenge with corruption. What are we doing with regards to corruption? Does this lend credence to the recent corruption index report that we got?
That said, we stepped up a bit, you know, which for me, that figure is still alarming.
It is. Because with the effort being made by government to address this whole issue, tighten loose ends and ensure that we get it right, then there's something wrong with us.
Absolutely.
As a people.
Hopefully it would be checkmated and brought to normalcy. That's what we laid up for the Abuja Enquirer as we make our way to the Blueprint newspaper this morning. We see again tension in Osun as defiant Adeleke swears in LG chairman. We're waiting to see the last of that. But there's something else right here. Ayedatiwa dumps Akeredolu's redeemed agenda opts for our ease. That's a whole lot in one statement. We need to check what that means to know exactly why what was dropped. And we see here Information Minister Idris loses mother-in-law. Oh, this is a sad one.
Unfortunate.
Holds service at the National Mosque today. Condolences to the minister himself. Little wonder Governor Sanwo-Olu paid him a visit, you know, in Abuja.
I just want to look at this story that you mentioned earlier on of Ayedatiwa dumping Akeredolu's redeemed agenda and opting for our ease. He has concluded, you know, the tenure
of Akeredolu.
And now this is his tenure. And he feels, I have an agenda I want to run with. So I believe how they catched it here is seemingly looking like,
bye, this is me.
It's not necessarily dumping, but he's saying it's perhaps building on what his principal did, and he wants to say, he's giving it a name of his own. So the media needs to, you know, take it easy on this politician sometimes.
I like the fact that you called us out on this.
I mean, let's call ourselves out.
yeah. Very important, very important. And that's where we'd leave it for the Blueprint newspaper this morning as we make our way for the News Direct. And I mean, lots of picture stories right here. But Veronica, there's one that really interests me. At the top there we see the governor of Osun State and 3 white men in Adire.
They're looking good.
Absolutely good. I love this. You know, again, remember that the governor's been trying to champion, you know, the export of Adire and the manufacturing of Adire, you know, in the state. And so to see this wonderful executives wearing that with the governor, it's beautiful. But that's an aside. There's something else right here. Again, on drugs, the NDLEA twat style lady smuggling of 43 parcels of Canadian loud. Veronica, last week we saw a report that Nigerians are increasingly using drugs. The NDLEA is having to fight a lot of this. I'm wondering, I'm supposing you know, how come that we, you know, especially young people, because this is reported around young people, but also older adults are involved in this. How come we are seeing a record increase in the use of illicit drugs in this country? What's going on?
Perhaps because of the pressure of the economy or the situation around them. A lot of people are looking for escape route to just get things off their minds and not remember that perhaps they have challenges. And some other persons feel that there are issues that, well, my friend is doing it, and so I too, I need to do that.
Is drugs the way to go to forget anything?
No, but some people, that's the only option they know. That's the only available option. Now, if it is not readily available, they would not buy it. They would not see it to buy. So we need to do something about taking it off the streets, making it readily available for anyone to get access to it. We need to begin to look at that.
Indeed, it's important. And finally, before we leave the Nigerian News Direct this morning, we see a conversation here from Dangote. We have enough to meet Nigeria's needs. I think that's some good news, because last week we saw a report of the Dangote refineries complaining of some kind of hardship around that. And so to see this, he's saying we have enough. I think we're good to go with the Dangote refineries.
This is coming on the heels of that trending video where there was a comparison between his fuel and that of the NNPC and all of that. I am thinking perhaps that was a marketing strategy.
Well, probably it will work for him. As we make our way to the Punch newspaper this morning, and again, APC PDP clash as El-Rufai woos opposition parties. 2027, like I like saying, is dancing in the green grass. At the top nameplate right there, tax reform, National Assembly engages caucus leaders as hearing begins. Okay. And this is about the Lagos Assembly. Tinubu engages Akonde, Oshoba, others on peace mission. Indeed, we'll wait to see how that goes. And there's something else right here. Stepfather at the bottom of the Punch. Stepfather, friend arrested for impregnating 14-year-old in Lagos. Stepfather.
This is such an
and friend.
It's sad. If you knew that you wouldn't be able to play a role as a stepfather, why did you marry her, her mother in the first place? This person is supposed to be your daughter.
Exactly, you know.
This person is supposed to be your daughter, and she suddenly looks appealing to you, 14-year-old. I mean, it shows the level of I don't want to use certain words, but it's sad.
My mind really can't even comprehend 14-year-old. No way.
The person was crying, you did not stop.
No way.
Challenge you and your friend? No, this is bad.
Well, I see the picture of the first PRO there. I'm sure the police have their hands on this. But let's leave it there for the punch as we make our way to this Nigeria. The top name plate there says, federal government workers decry high taxes amid low income. Well, we could talk about that. But look at this, Veronica. June 12th, why I wouldn't use word sorry. This is quoting IBB. You know, some persons have said that he should have apologized, but one way or the other, by ceding to that, some persons have also said that is his own way of apologizing. Is that enough? I'm sure it will be left for the family to know. But there's a picture story there.
I know. Don't move yet. Do not move yet.
Okay.
Calm down. I need to touch on this because it's quite worrisome that he's saying why he wouldn't use the word sorry. He has told Nigerians that, look, I accept full responsibility. It is bigger to accept responsibility. You should see the event beyond the narrow word sorry. I don't think the word sorry is narrow. Now, this is my opinion. I don't think the word sorry is narrow. I mean, people died as a result of that incident. So many things happened. It changed the whole landscape politically, media-wise, and in every way economically. That changed our landscape. And if you indeed want to take responsibility for that action, I think that the word sorry would go a long way. Beyond just saying, I took responsibility. The word sorry, it's not narrow. There are people who need to heal.
Exactly.
A lot of persons are looking for closure. Some persons say their families were never the same again as a result of that. And it took you years to come to terms with your role. Although you say it is not necessarily your role, and you pointed an accusing finger at someone else, you should have just said the word sorry if indeed you want history to blot out your name with regards to this issue.
You know, Veronica, you make a salient point right there. I was at the Equator Declaration spot somewhere here on the island, and you know, you mentioned some families, and I saw families who were directly affected by that incident. I mean, where MK Abiola sat and declared himself the winner of that election.
Right.
I was there, I spoke to some members, and you could still see the pain in their eyes. You know, some of them wriggle at the fact that they didn't have the opportunity that they were given legitimately, you know, to rule as the persons who were elected in office. And so I could relate to the seeming pain that they went through. And so perhaps on that grounds, the word sorry would mean $1 billion to them.
Absolutely. I'm telling you of people who lost their fathers, people who lost their relatives as a result of this matter, people who went on exile as a result of this issue. And you think that sorry doesn't matter? I think it does matter. It doesn't take anything if you use that word. It doesn't change the fact that you were once the military head of state, and it doesn't change the fact that you're an elder statesman. It questions your intention with regards to the statement you made. Actually, if you're not seeing it that way, it questions it. It questions the integrity behind the statement you made, because a lot of persons are asking, why now? Why did you make that statement? And so now a lot of persons seem it's like an open wound. You went back to open a wound that was supposed to have healed over 30 years ago, and because you are still saying certain things, a lot of persons feel injured.
Now remember, he also mentioned that he wasn't really aware that his colleagues, I would use the phrase now, were the ones who really handled it. And some persons have come to question, really? In a military system, is that even possible?
Everyone is asking that question, Nelson. In a military system where you know that protocol is
tightly, oh my.
Protocol, even when you do not mention certain persons' names and rankings and all of that, you can get into trouble. And then this goes under your nose without you being aware or giving a nod to it. I am wondering, maybe there's something I'm not
and speaking of protocol being sacrosanct in the military, Veronica, this led me to watching the Oputa panel. I mean, such a wonderful conversation I saw, you know, that existed at the time, and the level of intelligence that was in that room for, I think I watched about 6 different episodes, you know, of the sessions of that panel. And one of the persons who was accused of, I don't want to mention anybody's name, who was accused of doing anything, said that he was given an instruction from his boss. And his boss was right there, sitting in the room, said he didn't so do. And the man looked at the panel and said, do you think that in the military, anybody junior would take an action without being given the instruction by a senior person? Nobody could answer. The whole room went into laughter. So I understand what you mean. And so that's why Nigerians are calling for, are you really sure, sir, that you weren't aware? But Veronica, I think we'll let that there.
There are still some stories here that I think we should touch on.
The picture story I wanted to get to, we see right there the president himself, the Minister of Finance, and the Chief Executive Officer of Flutterwave, and his second, the CEO of Alami Capital. It looks to me, day by day, we're seeing the president and the federal government as a whole taking steps to expand our economic net. Veronica?
Absolutely.
And so this again is a lovely gain for the government.
I am looking at this story at the downstrip, talking about health alert. NCDC reports 80 deaths from Lassa fever in 11 states, because we haven't been paying attention to these matters in recent times because of one drama here, the other there in politics. But we need to pay attention to what is going on. Looking at the state of our health facilities and all of it, people need to begin to take responsibility for themselves. We are seeing what NAFDAC is doing, fighting fake drugs and all, and then we are still fighting Lassa fever and other forms of epidemic and diseases. So it's important that people do the needful in terms of washing their hands, ensuring that there's sanitation around themselves and all of that. They keep their homes clean to avoid their environment clean, to avoid all of these things. It's critical.
And speaking of what the health, you know, about health, there's a story right there again. Doctor staff donate blood to save accident victims at Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital. This sounds like a very lovely one. Taking an active step ahead.
It means that perhaps they ran out of blood in the blood bank, and and the doctors decided, you know what, this is what we signed up for, and so because they took the Hippocratic oath to ensure they save lives, and so they decided, you know, it's important that we do the needful to save this life, and kudos to them for taking that step. Really, it's really good to see that.
Indeed, I mean, an impressive one right there from the doctors. I'm not sure I've ever heard about this before. That's why I had to take it.
Of course, I've never heard about it before. That's why
on the spot.
Kudos to them. Perhaps they didn't have any other option, and they found that their blood sample or their blood matched that of the victim, and so they had to take it, quickly donate to save that victim.
And that's why we are consistently calling for the government to make sure that our health workers receive what is due them. As we make our way finally to our last paper this morning, the Sporting Life. Veronica, I don't know how good a sports lady you are.
Please stay away from me at this point.
But look at this. Lookman shows class, net brass. Okay. And Dele Bashiru suffers sprained ankle. Oh my. I'm trying to look for a story about my guy.
No, it's your guy.
Osime, who has been spotted one place to the other.
He may not feature in the papers today. Leave Osime alone.
Apparently he's not. But that's what we'll leave it up for the newspaper review segment this morning, as Veronica will continue with the rest of the program.
All right. Thank you, Nelson. It was an interesting time I had. Well, still to come on TVC Breakfast, we shall examine IBB's bombshell confession and what it means for the future of Nigeria's media landscape. Stay with us.
All right, before we go into our next segment this morning, let's quickly let you know that Ibrahim Shita just joined me this morning.
Veronica, good morning to you. Good to see you.
Same here. Well, the launch of former military President Ibrahim Babangida's autobiography, A Journey in Service, has continued to generate reactions from prominent lawyers, human rights activists, and other Nigerians. This is following his admission almost 32 years after the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, which was widely adjudged freest, fairest, and most credible poll in the history of the country, that Chief Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, popularly known as MKO Abiola, was the winner. The media, which is known as the fourth estate of the realm, has also helped to promote this, but how well has justice been served? But joining us in the studio is columnist, TV host, essayist, Sam Omache. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Happy New Year. I believe this.
Happy New Year, that's true. The last time we saw was in November or December.
Something like that.
Yes.
In the other end.
I just say welcome to your palace.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for coming, and welcome to Ibrahim as well. I mentioned that earlier on. But let's look at this matter, Sam, concerning what former military head of state Ibrahim Babangida has said. If you look at the papers this morning, this Nigeria, there is a report saying June 12, why I won't use the word sorry, IBB. He says, I have told Nigerians that, look, I accept full responsibility. It is bigger to accept responsibility. You should see the event beyond the narrow word sorry. How do you respond to this?
I wrote this morning in my column that IBB conned everybody, conned the media, conned political elite, conned everybody when they reported that IBB said, I regret. IBB never said, I regret. He never said that. He said that the nation is entitled to expect an impression of my regret. He used Maradona for you people. That guy deserves the Nobel Prize for his manipulation of language. He never said, I regret. People thought that he said, I regret, and that he was sorry, the one you are doing, and that he apologized. IBB has never changed his opinion since 32 years ago. And one way or the other, he has used the razzmatazz of language to manipulate our own credulity, that we are now accepted that the man said, I regretted. He didn't say so. Editors should be careful when they cast headlines, when they read language. He never said, I'm sorry. He never, you see, when you regret, it means that you are remorseful.
Right.
He was not remorseful. And you have to be remorseful in order to apologize.
Right.
He never did any of that. It's not, the only thing he did was actually anodyne. He said, Abiola won the election. That's the only thing we have been able to get from him.
And he pointed accusing fingers at the late
Abacha.
Yes.
Abacha, Sani
Yes,
Abacha.
he said it was Abacha. If you read the book, I forgot to bring my copy of the book. If you read the book, he blamed everybody except himself. But he said I took responsibility.
He said he took
So
responsibility.
is that
Isn't
even
that accepting?
possible in a military situation where we understand that respect for hierarchy is sacrosanct?
He's the commander-in-chief. Everything stops at your table. A man who came into the AFRC one day and they dissolved it, said, I don't have control over what is going on. Everything about the transition program of IBB was a reflection of IBB's personality. So to say that he did not, that he want to blame Abacha, Abacha himself showed that he didn't like June 12. He didn't like it for sure. Right. Because when he took over from the ING, he had a meeting with Abiola and everybody, but he still didn't,
right.
He didn't give Abiola the mandate. So that's why Abiola, after some people joined the government, Jakonde, Onogoruwa and co., when they joined the government. They thought that we were going to segue the state into accepting Abiola's mandate. But what Abacha did was to dig in. So he was trying to exploit that fact to say that Abacha people did it. He said that, was he afraid of Abacha? He said he was not afraid of Abacha, but he was only thinking of his own safety. Some people think there's contradiction there. There's no contradiction there. You are not, you are afraid of, you don't want the soldier at the other side to kill you, but you want to be safe.
You want to be safe.
Yes, exactly.
Right, so now quoting from Babangida's book, he said, my decision was a bitter pill to swallow, but necessary to prevent a collapse of the federation. And if you, no, I'm actually heading somewhere. If you recall that in 1993, you were very much alive then and very active. So it occurred amid regional tensions, struggling economy, which was even above 30% or about, and fears of military fragmentation. So if you're now given this fragile state of Nigeria during this time, do you not agree with the some apologists who said that, who framed IBB's annulment as temporary sacrifice rather than to avoid a deeper crisis?
That's the thing about IBB. IBB created the tension and then he blamed the tension. That's what he did. When the election ended that day, everybody was waiting for the announcement of the result. Day 1, there was nothing. Day 2, there was nothing. Day 3, there was nothing, and we were all waiting. I was in Abuja. I was head of Concord office in Abuja. And I was seated on my desk when Mohammed Adamu, our Villa correspondent, came to me. He came with a scrap of paper, almost like that paper you had, almost like that. He just brought it. I said, what is this? There was no signature, no letterhead, no insignia of state. There was nothing like that. And I said, what is it? He said, Nduka Irabo gave it to all of us. And I read it. It didn't say they dissolved into it. It just said everything about the transition, everything had been dissolved. So I called the editor in Lagos. And when he heard it, he said, please call the editor-in-chief, that's Abiola's wife. So I called her, I read it to her. I said, what does it mean? Because she was actually already angry, as if she didn't understand what I read to her. I said, well, it means that the election has been annulled. And she was blaming the messenger, blaming me that you should have known this before. I would like to know. Now, what's going on is that in the book, IBB said that Ikomo did not know about it. Yet his chief press secretary was the one that handed it over to us. So I tried to call Nduka Irabo, who was the chief press secretary. Is that true? I couldn't reach him. But Nduka Irabo should come and tell us, did Ikomo, your boss, know about this paper? And why did you hand it over to the media? Why did you hand it over to the media without the knowledge of your boss? Or was IBB lying in that?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
That's a quick.
Everybody didn't take responsibility for everything. ABN, Association for Better Nigeria by Arthur Zerbe, was all over the place. IBB said the thing just happened. They didn't know anything about it. So they didn't want anybody to think that they were trying to stop them. What kind of statement is that? And you went after TEL magazine, you went after CD, you went after CDHR, you went after CLO. For goodness sake, they went after me. There were 2 cars. Olu Akerele was the one that even told me. I didn't know. Olu Akerele was the real first aide to MK Abiola. I was the one who told me that, look, there are 2 cars following you, a Jetta and a 505. Because then I knew. I'd not even had accommodation there. So the wife, there was one day we were coming from the Nikon. They used to call it Nikon that time, the Hilton, Nikon Noga Hilton at that time. Went for a night out with the host of the family. The women, they know things. So one of the cars was following us. I didn't want them to know. I didn't want them to be hassled where I was staying, that something was going on. But the wife, by the time we got to the compound, the car just zoomed up. Boom. The wife said, this car has been following us since the time we left. I said, really? But I pretended I didn't know, but I knew. Yeah. But I knew. That is how the tension they created.
How did you escape? Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Well, that time there was no fuel. There was no fuel. There was fuel scarcity, and I had to go to the government because they already banned my newspaper at Concord. So what happened? I didn't tell anybody I was traveling. I went to buy a jerry can. I filled my car. Then I had an extra one. That's how we moved around that time. Put it in the trunk of the car, the boot of the car. By 4 a.m., I told my host, I'm going to Lagos. So I got into the car and zoomed off. So before my interlopers, before they knew where I was, I had already left her.
Interesting stuff. Right.
Interesting.
So if you look at, because a lot of people have written books, regarding this, there's what happened in June 12, there is Wole Soyinka, you must set forth at dawn.
Yes.
And he called the annulments a treason against the people. But if you look at it, how did IBB's retrospective justification in his book fail to address the irreparable damage to democratic values or democratic
He doesn't
ethos?
want to. He's even excusing himself. He's saying that because he annulled it, you get it? Because he annulled it, the country does not disintegrate, and that is why we are able to have democracy. That is how serpentine his logic is. That's why I use the word rhetorical rigmarole to describe the way he uses it. He's justifying it. He said it that day.
So he's trying to position himself as a hero.
As a hero. That's what he's trying to say. He's saying, I saved this country for democracy. If I had gone to change it, if I had allowed Abiola, the country would have disintegrated. That's
because according to him,
some
persons who were still interested in killing him at the end of the day.
He said they wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
Why don't you kill the people who wanted to kill him? You are the commander-in-chief.
Right.
Let the people defend the person who won the mandate. Don't act as if you have all the knowledge.
Right.
And then he said, if I were to do it again, I would do it differently. And people believe that I meant that it would disannul. You said that there was no other choice, but to annul. I say you would do it differently. So you are just lying. You are not going to do it differently.
I'm wondering what he would do differently.
What do you do differently? What will you do when you said that?
You say it's the right decision.
It's the right decision. I did it in the interest of the unity and the survival of this country. Then you will do it differently means that you wanted the country to dissolve.
Okay, let's look at the role of the media, because you just mentioned something earlier on that editors need to be careful how they couch their headlines and all of that, because we saw that at that time the media was on fire, ensuring that they gave details to the people about giving blow-by-blow account of everything that was happening. But how do you think that shaped the public's understanding of the event?
The media was very strong that time. The kudos will go to the news detail, and there were some other ones. I remember one magazine. I forgot the name of the guy. I remember the headline: "How Nigeria will disintegrate, Part 1." There were people out. Babafemi Ojudu has just written a book about his own adventures of the guerrilla journalist, which I've read. I think people should go and read to know. Those people who are calling for military rule should know how dastardly and how cruel and how bloody the atmosphere was at that time. So the media held its own. The people were being hounded from place to place. They were printing. They will print here tomorrow. They print there. They don't want people to know. I mean, if the internet there, you won't even need to print anywhere. You just put it online and everybody will know what
in the
is
course
going.
of this whole matter.
No, Adeleke was dead then. Yes, Adeleke had long
died.
Before. Even Newswatch, which was a very strong paper during the time of Babangida, was not even a factor at that time. The papers, the newspapers, the two major headaches for the military were the news and the Tell magazine. That's right. That's right. Musa Egbebo and so on. People don't talk a lot about what the Tell did. They talk about the news, but they were both very powerful and feared, and they were pursued.
So how do you see Babangida's confession, or let me just put it that way, how do you see it as, I mean, because if you look at the annulled elections, the presumed winner, MKO, was a Yoruba icon, and then it has actually polarized reaction with, for instance, Professor Ibrahim Jibrin cautioning against reigniting regional animosity, because they see him as, yes, a Yoruba icon, and then now having sentiments towards the northern part, because Babangida is of the northern extraction. how can we balance this as you look at Tinubu in the mix of things as a Yoruba leader, navigate alliances ahead of the 2027 election?
There's nothing new about this. There's always regional and ethnic tensions. There will always be elites who want to exploit this kind of atmosphere. At that time, there was actually tension in the country. You know, there was hunger because some people could not work.
Inflation was way more than 30%.
The access for food was difficult. Access to fuel was difficult, and there was also regional tension. There was a sense that the Igbos just moved home. Many of them just moved home. And ironically, the person who was regarded as the governor of Lagos was Ubani. Who was, anytime he said nobody should go to work, we start calling him the governor of Lagos. He's dead now. But you know, he was the one that was holding the fort here in Lagos. So it's a very interesting story. But the thing is that the president was there, and was there for good measure, I'm sure, to try to say that. But there was an iron to it too. When he went there, he also needled him and said, remember, you didn't want to inaugurate the Senate, because the Senate had already won an election. Didn't want to inaugurate the Senate. It was one of them, needling the governor at that time, so they went after him and so on. So the regional tension was there, and there was a sense that the Southwest wanted to own everything. But then how did they resolve it? They resolved it, including IBB going to Ota, saying that, look, let it be a Southwest presidency. That's what Obasanjo, who didn't believe in it, took advantage of it.
Anyway, we'll come back to this whole conversation after we return from this break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're still looking at the statement coming from the former military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida, and we still have in the studio Sam Omashe reacting to that statement and other issues around that. Let's talk about what Nigerians are saying about that event, first of all, before we delve into other matters. Recall that the president, the current president, talking about Bola Tinubu, was part of those who were at the heart of the struggle at the time. And some Nigerians seeing him at that event were not necessarily happy. They were like, Mr. President, you honored this invitation, and some said he was even smiling and all of that. So many commentaries around his attendance. I'm wondering what you make of the president's attendance of that event. Yes, you said he nipped him a bit earlier on, but there are those who are not seeing that aspect.
Yes, I recall this short story I read many years ago by Senegalese writer Ousmane Sembène, called Her 3 Days. It's a short story about a woman, a polygamous home where all the women all the wives, each of them would take their turns in spending 3 days with the husband. So the writer described the relationship between the wives as the perfidy of smiles and the hypocrisy of rivals. So he described it like that. So what you saw between them was what I saw during the inauguration between Obama and Trump. I know people watched it. Obama had the greatest contempt for Trump. Trump had the greatest contempt for Yorubas call it Ojuayi. That's what happened there. You are president. You have already won. Winston Churchill, he said, during the Second World War, he said, in war, resolution, in victory, magnanimity, in defeat, defiance. You have already won. You are president of the country. Why do you need the grudge anymore? This man is already down. he might have made a profit of 16 billion, but it's already down. He who is down needs fear no fall. The man is already down. What is he going to fight him now at 83 or 84?
That's right.
Is he going to do that? I mean, there are different ways of grieving too. There's this novel called The Discomfort of Evening by Maria Lucas Reineveld, in which somebody died, and it showed how different ways how a family can can show its own grief. So there are different ways of showing grief. Perhaps the president's way of showing grief is to say, you didn't want us, we are here. You are here. I'm the president, I'm going to speak last in this event.
That's right.
And then it took opportunity to tell him, you were banning and unbanning, unbanning and unbanning. Well, you cannot unban me, I'm here standing. So there are many ways of making a statement. He made 16 billion. Let them give me the 15 billion, let them go and build the library. People are saying, why should they take the 15 billion? They say they should distribute it to the poor. It's blood money. Let them use that money. Let them use that money to go and build that, what they call it, library. So everybody can see all the atrocities of the it become a monument to the times that the man made.
Well, we'll have to be careful on that one. We'll have to be careful on that.
That's the thing. So
no, but it's true. It's true. The money is what? Is to appreciate a book that's trying to justify an age of savage.
Or probably because it was his own experience.
Don't see it in that light. Perhaps those who donated do not see it in that light. They are only supporting a cause of building a library.
A library for what?
In his name.
To tell the story of...
The story may not go down.
That's the story of the book. The story of June 12. The story of June 12 is the story. Yeah, the story of June 12 is the story of an annulment of an election. It's the story of the killing of many people on the streets of Nigeria. Absolutely. It is the story of the killing of major high-class, high-profile people like Kudirat Abiola, MK Abiola himself. The story of the killing of our fellow journalist Bagauda Kalto, and many others.
But then
it is the story of hunger and destruction of Nigerian economy.
You can go on. You can go on and on. I know you can go on and on. You know, there are different angles to a story.
Absolutely.
You have your own angle to it as someone, a partaker, not in whatever, maybe the striking or anything, but as a journalist, you know, being socially responsible to the people. He also had his own perspective. Perhaps that is what he has, you know, gone ahead to detail in this book. So should we criticize him for, you know, detailing his own perspective as to what happened?
But the point is that yes, it is what did he detail? It was a story about defending himself about a time that was full of turmoil, a turmoil that happened on his watch, a turmoil that he took full responsibility in his own language for. So he took full responsibility for the killings, for the annulment of the election. He took full responsibility for the consequences of his action. And so it was a period of bloodshed. So that is the story of June 12. It is a story of bloodshed. It is a story of injustice. It is a story of the annulment of Nigeria's future.
Which he feels he's trying to rewrite as it is. And some have said perhaps he's trying to purge his conscience, because there is the saying that conscience is an open wound, only truth can heal it. So I believe this is his truth, and he feels he's been healed.
Yes, let us see all those. Let us see the wound. They say it's an open wound. Yes. Let us see the wound in this in the library, and let us see whether he's able to really heal it. We can find the truth to heal it. That's why I said they should have the library.
Has been healed by this.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
I believe that is what he's trying to do.
There's a novel, what they call it, Dombe and Sons, where the man, you know, was very, you know, by Charles Dickens and so on. He was very rich. He had this big mansion, and everything was so beautiful. That's right. And he thought that he was a man of great conscience. He only wanted the son, and he didn't care for his daughter. And at the end of it, he lost everything. And he had no big building, he had no mansion. He was a poor, wretched man. at the end of the day. And the man who you thought that was very confident became at war with his, showed that he was at war with his own conscience from the beginning.
All right, Sam, there is a there's a question I want to ask you. There's a question I want to ask you, you know, regarding MKO. You know, we have all of the players at that time.
Yes.
IBB, whose person we are discussing, having a conversation on. But if you look at MKO, a lot of critics have actually seen it from different perspectives. Yeah. Are you saying that MKO, a president that never was, would have been the angel Nigeria needed at that time? I'm going somewhere. Nigeria needed at that time. Are we not over-romanticizing him as, you know, a hero of the Nigerian democracy?
He became a hero by default. If a man was supposed to be bad and you didn't allow him to be bad, the process of not allowing him has magnified and amplified his virtues. That's what has happened. So we don't know whether MKO would have been a great president. He himself said it in the book that MKO would not have been a great president. We were in this country when he started maligning MKO by calling top Yoruba men to MKO and started showing them the books, the contracts, and so on. And the Oni of Ife say, "Yay, she like that. She like shaye funi." That's Oni of Ife. So that's why he said that they cannot try best. You can't vote again. Nobody wanted to vote again. But the good thing about it, some people are saying that IBB is a coward. I don't know whether it's a coward.
Choice of words, please.
Some people say so. I'm saying I don't believe that. That's why I'm saying that I don't believe that. That is a coward because he did so many great things in his life.
Right.
Yeah.
Which he was eulogized even at that time.
Yeah, there's so many things that cowards don't do. For instance, during the coup against that was the coup against Muritala at that time. Yeah. He went into the building to meet Oka, the radio station. And Oka said, no, not Oka, sorry, Bukasuka Dimka. And Dimka wanted to shoot him. He said, no, I'm coming, I'm without arms. He entered. I went to talk with him. Before he left again on his own. His ADC, that's Buka's assistant, he said, no, let us just finish this man. He said, no, leave him. When he went back, and T.Y. Danjuma said, what are you doing? Go back and flush him out.
So, do you think that... the
man who did coups over coups and over coups, you call him a coward? I don't think he's a coward. He knows what he's a calculated man.
Right. That's why some people call him the evil genius.
He said he called himself that.
And people
denied it again, which is in character.
Anyway, so let's still look at the role of the media, for instance, at ensuring that June the 12th is recognized as Democracy Day. Do you think that the media also played a major role at ensuring that the incidents of that day 32 years ago is still very much alive in our minds, and that we needed to recognize that day?
Until we practice democracy the way it ought to be practiced, we still have June 12th as an incubus. It's always haunting us because it has become something of a banner of what we are aspiring for. It becomes a symbol, has become something of a shrine of our democracy. That's what it is. So the journalists strive towards it. I'm not as if journalists were all united. There were some journalists who were actually on the take, on the other side, who were on the side of
bound to happen.
It's bound to happen. It's a human story. It's a human nature. It's human nature. Yes.
Right.
Let us look at the youth in the middle of all of this. For instance, 70% of youth are under 30. You know, compare that time to this time, and the majority of them could not essentially relate with what happened back in the day. But most of us read the history. But the thing is, it actually, if you go to social media, it trended hashtag IBB confession, hashtag arrest IBB, and try him now, and so many hashtags. If you look at all of these, you know, vis-a-vis this book written by Okolo, Digital Activism in Africa, do you think IBB's confession inadvertently empower youth-led movements demanding systemic change?
We see this systemic change is IBB going to. IBB, it's very good that they are trying to show interest. I know most of them don't even know what happened then. Many of them don't even read history. The young people don't read history. They should go and read history. They should know what happened that time. It's just recent history. To us, it's not, to me, it's not history. It's like part of lived experience. You know,
That's right.
We saw it every day.
Right.
I was out of job. I remember that time I had no salary, I had no money in my pocket. I wanted to cook, and I didn't have meat, little money I had. I went to the market.
Buy fuel.
No, I know my car was down. I wouldn't buy fuel. My car was down for a long time.
To drive down to Lagos when did you?
No. I'm talking of different phases of that period.
The aftermath.
That was after. After I'd come to Lagos.
All right.
You were out of job following the incident.
At the stage, I went to the market. I wanted to buy meat, and the man said, "The money where you get cannot buy meat here." He said, "But let me cut this and give you for free."
Also kind of
demand. There were situations like that, and you should go and read history to know what really happened, to appreciate the struggles that went on that time. Different kinds of people struggled. Market women struggled. There are all kinds of people who were in the fight, who are anonymous today, who were supporting people who were in this struggle. So the youth should go and read things that happened at that time in order to appreciate this kind of thing. Yeah.
Quickly, because of our time, time they say heals all wound, but for the family, do you think they will have closure with this statement?
Which family?
MQ Abiola's family.
No, I don't think they have any closure with this because they feel that the man is not. I don't want to use this word. People are restraining me.
Yeah,
it's not who he claims to be. Okay. So, and it's not saying he has not changed everything. The man has already been. He said June 12. He's saying that June 12 was won by Abiola. Buhari had already declared it officially, and the man has given GSL
and apologized.
So
there's nothing different.
What have you come? You just come here to get a profit to laugh at us.
All right. We'll have to leave the conversation. Simon Mashe, TV host, essayist, columnist, author. Thank you so much for your time on the program. It's so good having you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for staying with us. We'll now link up with Eshomomo Imodu and TVC Adeleke in our Abuja studio for the conversation on that is generating reactions around USAID funding Boko Haram. Good morning, Eshomomo. Good morning, TVC. How are you guys doing today?
Good morning, Veronica. We're fine this morning.
Great.
Good to know. Good morning, TVC.
Good morning, Ibrahim.
Morning. Good morning. You can take it away now.
Open conversation on Nigeria's issues and all of that.
Yeah. Okay, now, thanks everyone for staying with us. Now, the House of Representatives has set up an ad hoc committee to investigate allegations made by U.S. Congressman Scott Perry that the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, is involved in funding Boko Haram and other terrorist organizations in Nigeria. Now, the House also urged the federal government to engage with the U.S. government through the House Committee on Foreign Affairs to seek a formal clarification on the matter. The 15-member committee, chaired by Honorable Victor Obuzo, has also been tasked with probing the activities of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, operating in Nigeria, including their identities, sources of funding, and expenditure. Now, these resolutions were reached following the adoption of a motion titled "The Need to Investigate the Allegation" by U.S. Congressman Scott Perry that the USAID has allegedly funded Boko Haram and other international terrorist organizations, moved by Honorable Inuwa Garba during plenary in Abuja. In his motion, Mr. Garba expressed concerns over Congressman Scott Perry's statement made during the U.S. Subcommittee on Delivering Government Efficiency hearing. Perry alleged that $697 million annually, along with cash shipments, were funneled to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and other extremist groups.
He argued that given Boko Haram's stronghold in northern Nigeria, the group may have significantly benefited from these alleged funds. He said, and I quote, "If true, the allegation raises serious national and international security concerns and questions about external influences on Nigeria's fight against insecurity, highlighting the loss of lives, property destruction, and displacement of over 1 million citizens due to terrorism," end of quote. He warns that failure to investigate the claim could embolden criminal groups and exacerbate Nigeria's security challenges. Responding to U.S. Ambassador Rich Mills' dismissal of the allegation as false, Mr. Garba insisted that the ambassador had no authority to make such a declaration. He emphasizes that Nigeria have a duty to defend their country without foreign interference. The House urged the media and the public to remain vigilant and provide any information that could assist security agencies in combating terrorism. The ad hoc committee has been directed to report back to the House within 2 weeks for further legislative action. And for more on this investigation, we'll be speaking with the Chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business, Honorable Francis Waive, who is live with us in the studio this morning. It's good to have you on the program, Honorable.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. Well, let's jump right into the conversation. Some people argue that these allegations have long been in the public domain, yet Nigerian officials have handled them with caution. Why did it take a U.S. congressman to reiterate these allegations before they were considered serious enough to warrant investigation?
Looking at the allegations, before it came from this level, a member of the House of Representatives of the United States Assembly making such allegation. Previously, there had just been speculations. I remember being in a House committee that visited Governor Zulum in Maiduguri, and there was this talk about NGOs having a property they paid for 10 years, and making long-term plans to stay on ground. But there were no concrete evidence to tie any particular civil society organization, especially the foreign ones, to any misdemeanor or anything that is uncomely. So it's just been speculation all along. But now that it has come from this high-ranking U.S. official on the floor of Parliament, he gave that, made that allegation in a committee hearing, and he was on live television worldwide. So that makes it very serious. And this time, it's not just a question of which NGO, because there are dozens of them operating in the country and in the northeast of the country. But he now specified it to USAID, United States Agency for International Development. That makes it more specific. And then he now mentioned a specific figure, which makes it very alarming, especially with the high amount of money that he mentioned. So it calls for concern, it calls for investigation, it calls for action to be taken. I know that there are a lot of NGOs and CSOs doing a good work in our country. During the military era, there were a lot of them who helped us to in the fight and struggle for the restoration of democracy. Even now, there are many who are helping to build capacity to strengthen our democracy. Many are doing a good job in many areas. But this very one is a negative development, and it needs to be handled with all the seriousness it deserves. That's why the House took the action we've taken on this very matter. Okay,
let me also bring this back to point to the seriousness that has been on the streets, where I mean the allegations and insinuations by the public. Even the former president once said that, let me read, it's called, some of them are in the executive arm of government, some of them are in the parliamentary legislative arm of government, while some of them are even in the judiciary, some are also in armed forces, the police and other security agencies. Now, it's not about the 10th House of Reps now, it's about the Nigerian House of Representatives. Why is it that with such statement from a former president, the House never saw it necessary until this.
Yeah, fortunately, I was also a member of the 9th Assembly. And when the then president made that allegation, we wouldn't come out in the, to dance naked in the market square. But we did put it to him that he should name the specific individuals. That allegation was very wild and very unspecific without providing any. If you're not specific, you won't be able to provide a solution. So for many of us, the buck stops at his table. And since the thing was escalating and nothing was happening, perhaps he was looking for an excuse. Compare and contrast that with what we have today in the country. Since the current president came in, the insecurity is going down. This is visible to all. I'm not saying it's perfectly okay right now. In fact, the issues of insecurity are worldwide. But if you notice, between the last and the present, you find that it has dropped significantly. So it is not a question of just making wild allegations. It's a question of making concrete efforts, taking concrete actions that will solve the problem. So that allegation was too wild, and we did ask that he should specify the individuals. If any member of the House of Reps in that 9th Assembly had been mentioned, I'm sure you would have faced the Ethics and Privileges Committee, and Nigerians would have known the result of it. But that was so wild. Members of the executive in an executive where you are chair, man, you have the authority to
grave allegations, is that not? And
grave allegations, but it was too, not specific, too wild. It was more of an excuse rather than an allegation as far as I'm concerned. And that's why in the 9th Assembly, when we took that stand, there was no response. And we left it at that. We were expecting that it was going to be specific, and then we would have taken it up. This present one is very specific. Boko Haram, US aid, very specific, $600 million, specific. So now we can take it up.
Well, thankfully, the House of Representatives has established a committee to investigate the allegations. If found true, what recommendations can Nigerians expect, and what measures or sanctions will be taken against culpable countries, individuals, and organizations?
I will not preempt the work that the ad hoc committee, being led by my dear brother and colleague, Honorable Victor Ibuzo, what they are doing. I'm not going to preempt them. But I can assure Nigerians that we are taking this very seriously. And it's an investigative hearing, so it will be public. It will be televised. People would be able to watch the proceedings. And the results would also be shown publicly. As Chairman Rules and Business, it will be my duty to list it on the paper when the report is ready for laying. And I'm excitedly looking forward to that. And thereafter, we shall list it for a committee of the whole discussion on the floor of the House. So Nigerians can look forward to a thorough investigation by the House, because we want these matters of insecurity to come to an end. It affects every one of us in Nigeria. Insecurity is the cause of the inflation we go through, is the cause of most of the problems we are going through in the country. So once we can get it right, then we can move forward as a country. I believe that this is one of the bottom-up approach. We are getting to the eye of the needle by this investigation. And I'm sure we are going to get results for our country. And it's my privilege that we are going to all be part of that.
Now let me also still come back to this. Probably a lot of doubts on the streets. Maybe you will help us clear some of those doubts. The fact is that people say that, will the House really get at anything about this? Probably it's just a media stuff. Will they get to the root of it? Because help us to understand, how do you intend going about this? Is it that you're going to invite the intelligence community in the US to come help give information? How do you intend to go about finding a solution, detail about this?
Like I said earlier, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of what the committee is doing. I'm not going to preempt them on their result. But the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, gives us wide powers to invite anybody, summon anybody, and to provide evidence in writing, orally, and otherwise. And anyone who fails to heed our summon is liable to be issued a warrant of arrest, and that such a person will go to prison. So All the US AID personnel who are in the country at the moment, they know that they should be expecting our invitation. Everybody who have worked for them and other agencies, because there's a way they also, subcontract. So everybody who have worked for them as a sub-grantee should be expecting the invitation of the House. And if you fail to attend, you will be expecting a warrant of arrest. So it's going to be a thorough job. I can assure Nigerians that it's going to be thorough and the public will be carried along.
And along the line, we're not going to off the mic.
Oh, no.
Issues were raised in the House.
This issue of off the mic should go off the stage by now.
Well, issues were raised in the House of Representatives about the activities of NGOs that continue to undermine the Army's effort to combat terrorism. In your own opinion, should there be a review of the rules of engagement of these NGOs, particularly laws that will curb their proliferation in the northeast, the epicenter of Nigeria's insurgency?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to agree that any NGO in the world operating in Nigeria has the capacity to impede our gallant armed forces, men of the armed forces, from performing their duty. I would never believe that. I would never believe that. But I believe that they could be doing some work behind the scene, undercover, these NGOs. And it now remains for our intelligence to uncover all of that and make sure that the activities are properly monitored and brought under the rule of law. It's the duty of the armed forces to ensure that anyone that is guilty of any breaking any of our rules, inciting our people, creating mayhem, responsible for insecurity, every one of such NGOs or CSOs should be brought to book. And the military has the capacity to do that. I believe in that. I also believe that there are many civil society organizations that are doing a great job, feeding the hungry, salvaging those who are on the verge of death, who are suffering oppression. Many NGOs are doing a good job, and we encourage them and give them a pat in the back. But those who are involved in negative practices must be stopped by all means, because that's not part of the bargain. We must ensure that our people get the best from even government and then every civil society organization, not to come and help to increase insecurity and all of that.
The Honorable, let me bring this up. The USAID has been disbanded by the US President, Donald Trump, and it brings to question that most of these grant-giving agencies, international agencies, probably where compromise come in, an ability to spy and to infiltrate, is because we seek grants. Now, what exactly will the House be putting in place to shift us away from people who go seek for such grants, and we can depend on ourselves so that nobody gives us grant and sets certain conditions for us that ends up hurting us?
Fortunately, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has reacted appropriately. He sent in an additional sum in the 2025 appropriation, which we just passed. He sent in that memo to say we should add for those areas where USAID and other American civil society organizations have been giving grants, so that the Nigerian government can come in and fill the gap. And we gave it expedited hearing. We immediately included that in the budget and passed it. So those, for instance, who are suffering from HIV/AIDS, who are worrying that they will not be getting their antiretroviral drugs, with the action that President Trump has taken, they can be rest assured that our country, our president, is up to the task, and he has made budgetary provisions for that. And what we can do as parliamentarians is to give appropriation to that request of Mr. President. And we have done that. And we will continue to do that whenever the executive sends us such request. And wherever we even notice such, we could even come by way of private member bill or motion to call the attention of the executive and to ask that something be done. So Nigerians can be assured that those areas that will be affected by what President Trump has done will not grossly affect our people, the common people who bear the brunt of the suffering. People who might be directly affected are Nigerians who are employed by such organizations. But I do know that many of such Nigerians have had their capacity built. So we're going to have a growth of local NGOs where Nigerians will take charge, and we're going to see things done differently for the benefit of our countrymen.
Well, we've seen a steady increase in the military budget annually, but despite this, it seems insufficient, and national security threats continue to evolve. What would be considered an adequate allocation for the armed forces to procure necessary military hardware, train soldiers, and properly equip them to effectively counter terrorism?
I would say that no amount of money is too much to allocate to the armed forces to save us from this problem of insecurity. No amount of money is too much. So the more we can give to them, the better. But then we must also know that what you look at as increasing cost could be because of the fact that almost everything we need in terms of armament for the armed forces is imported, and you pay US dollars. And you know the exchange rate today. In the 9th Assembly, I recall, it was less than 600 naira a dollar. But today we're talking about 1,500. So if you put that to the naira, you'll find that there's a triple increase in the naira cost. In dollar terms, there might not be any increase. But whatever happens, I'm glad that our country is giving this the attention it deserves. But I want to disagree with you when you say that there is no improvement. There is serious improvement, very serious improvement. Our work as legislators take us around the country on oversight duties. And we find that when we go to the Northeast and some other parts of the country, we can see the marked difference. Even if you look at newspaper reports, you will find that there's already a change in the narrative. In the Northwest, where there seemed to be an upsurge sometime early last year, you will notice that it's also gradually dropping. So the money that we are putting in there is paying off. So I think we should continue to do that, and we'll get to the point where this will be a thing of the past. But remember that across the country, even in the developed world, in the US, Germany, in France, and then other middle-income countries, you find that security is not what it used to be previously. 30 years ago when I started flying, I would go into an airplane without all the rigor we go through today. You know, I could take most of the things I can't take in now. I can take them on board an aircraft. But today I cannot. And it's not just in Nigeria, it's all over the world, because insecurity is now a new definition. There was a time in England where you can stop a criminal in the name of the Queen, stop there. And he will stop immediately. But today, if you're a British policeman and you say in the name of the King or King Charles, stop there, that guy will not stop. In fact, he would open fire on you, baby. So these days, the British police are now armed. So that is the development around the world. Insecurity, criminality, the definition has changed all over the world.
Can we also look at this narrative closely tied to the operations of insurgency in the north? It's the solid mineral wealth. Because you have a colleague of yours in the Red Chamber did say that made some allegations how ex-military officers and certain individuals move into that place to cut away some wealth. Is there a legislation that can be put in place that will help regulate that area and reduce this?
Let me begin by saying that all over Africa, wherever you find solid mineral, there's always some form of conflict. I think the process of mining, perhaps excluding South Africa proper, Southern Africa, there's still that issue in countries of the south of Africa. But you find that everywhere there's solid mineral, copper, gold, you name it, zinc, there's this insurgency. Those who mine them seem to create an atmosphere of chaos, so that they can steal these natural resources from our people. And so it's not different in our country. What you referred to as the speech by that distinguished senator, I'm not in a position to dispute what he has said. It is in the place of the armed forces of our country to ensure that that does not happen in our country. So wherever there's solid mineral deposits in our country, there must be security architectures must be upped from what it is right now. I must also say that existing legislation are enough. Legislations that are in place in our country are enough. Our problem in this country is not the absence of law. It is the enforcement of law. It is the obedience to these laws. That's the difference. Otherwise, we have enough laws. The other day, I traveled, and a friend of mine, his wife, came to pick me at the airport with their new baby. I haven't seen the baby. So as we're leaving the airport, I picked up the baby, and I was just, playing with the baby. And before you know it, a policeman had stopped us. That you can't hold the baby without the baby being strapped in a seat, and parked us there. I had to bring out my diplomatic passport and say, oh, let me go. But you see how they enforce the law. And because they enforce the law, you don't break it. So I had to strap the baby. And till we got home, I never touched that baby anymore. But in our country, nobody will enforce laws like that. And then there are people who are above the law. And these are the problems in our nation. The laws must be enforced and must be obeyed. Once we can get the issue of lawlessness solved in this nation, I tell you, there will be no country as great as Nigeria. I tell you.
Very quickly, before we let you go, you made an appeal to the president on the last time you were here. Can you give us an update on that matter?
Yes.
Has he responded to you?
Yes. The last time I was here, the governing councils of the federal higher institutions had been released. The list was changed once or twice. And Delta State, where I come from, happened to have been shortchanged with the final list. I had to cry out. I wrote the Minister of Education, wrote the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, wrote Mr. President, and then I happened to be on a breakfast show with you. So I also raised it up here. And I want to thank the President of the Federal Republic. We have a very good man, a listening president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He has done so well. Delta State now has our fair share on the basis of equality of states in the boards and of the governing councils of tertiary institutions in the country. And I want to thank Mr. President for that. But like with a twist, I'm going to ask him to remember how to do federal
It's good to know that TVC Breakfast
two times now they've given APC the seat.
On your
so
appeal.
You should give us more.
we are glad to know that we made a significant impact in your appeal.
TVC.
Well, thank you so much for your time with us on the program this morning. That's why we have to leave our conversation.
Thank you.
Well, that's it from us here in Abuja. It's back to you in Lagos, Veronica and Ibrahim.
Of the USAID funding Boko Haram, I am looking at how we'll get to the end of this whole matter. All right. It seems that Can you hear me, Eshamomo? Can you hear me, TJC?
We can
hear you. Yes, I said exactly how they get to the end of it is one thing we're waiting to see.
Interesting, because there's so much controversy regarding this. Although there are those who say there is no smoke without a fire, and we're looking at how the Senate will come and investigate the matter. I don't know why there are hindrances to the investigation. Has it begun? What are they doing really?
Well, the last update we have on that is that the Senate is going to have a closed-door session with heads of security agencies. So we'll just keep an eye on that as it unfolds, probably this week when they sit tomorrow, which is the first day of plenary. We hope to see if
talking about
chiefs will be invited for that conversation.
Talking about closed-door session, a lot of people have been reacting to that this was an issue that took lives of more than 30,000 people since 2009 when Boko Haram was, established in Nigeria. Just to use the word established. in Nigeria, you know, at the time, and that why should that session be done in a closed door? Exactly. So it should be an open conversation.
It's a sensitive issue. That's why it's been done in the closed door session.
Or to close the door on the session.
Well, don't confuse me. Anyway.
And we hope that the closed door session will not mean, like they usually say, off the mic and the
Right. I like that aspect. Thank you.
No, there will be no mic inside the session.
Thank you, Ashawama. We need to move forward now.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, it's time now for trending now with Olamide Odekunle. Olamide, good morning. It's over to you.
Good morning, Veronica. Good morning, Ibrahim. How are you doing today?
Great.
So good. Good morning.
Great. I have some good stories for you guys. I'm going to take it away.
Right.
Thank you so much. Good morning, you guys. I always say that TVC has a finger on the pulse. And if it's trending, I am definitely going to be talking about it on here. I like to start this segment off with some good news. In our first story, in a major crackdown, NAFDAC has uncovered large quantities of counterfeit and banned drugs that were hidden inside plumbing shops and non-drug sections at the Onitsha Bridgehead Drug Market in Anambra State.
They have drugs in the plumbing section. Our forces, our police went with our staff. They overwhelmed us. We narrowly escaped from being killed. These trucks that you have seen here are trucks that were caught by security forces in the night, trying to take drugs away from Idumota, where we have our operation. So these trucks are seized. We are not destroying trade. We are protecting lives. And our own enforcement met with the market leaders that this is what we are doing.
Now, over the past week, officials have seized at least 10 fully loaded 40-foot trucks that were filled with fake and substandard medicines. Some were even falsely labeled with NAFDAC's approval. Now, these illicit drugs are said to be worth billions and billions of naira, and many of them were being repackaged and revalidated under false claims before being sold to unsuspecting consumers. Can you imagine? Now, the agency thankfully has vowed to continue its operation to rid the market of dangerous drugs that are endangering public health. Now, the governor of Anambra State, Charles Soludo, did visit the Onitsha market, and he did say that he's trying to expedite the searching process so that traders could resume their activities within the next 10 days, because this does expedite trading. And some of the drugs that were actually found were actually medicine that was donated by USAID. And the question remains, how did that medicine donated by USAID land in the hands of fake drug peddlers and adulterers? We're going to take some tweets now. Vintage says, this is what we've been talking about. Some bigger fish sold these drugs to them. Uproot the bad tree and stop trimming its branches if you truly want to do it right. Ken Musa says, how were they imported into the country? Customs are compromised. Very important question. And Idris says, this is why there are so many health problems around today. Those who commit these crimes against humanity are evil and should be treated as the evil that they are. Can you imagine being ill, buying medicine, treating yourself, and nothing is happening because someone somewhere in the market has adulterated this medicine? Absolutely terrifying. In our next story, a video capturing a heated exchange between a Mercedes-Benz owner and a police officer during a routine stop and search in Lagos has ignited widespread debate on the legality and the limits of such operations in Nigeria. But what do you think? Let's take a look at this exchange. Pressing questions about the legality of stop and search. And some of these questions are, what should a lawful stop and search entail? What does it look like when police stop you? And how should you proceed in a legal manner? I'm going to take some social media tweets right now concerning this. Mequin says he has a right to ask to see the other license. You shouldn't be in possession of multiple licenses without explanation. It's like being in possession of multiple debit cards or SIM cards. Because we couldn't play the video, what essentially transpired in the video was that the police officer stopped this man and he asked him there was another driver's license belonging to another person in his car, and the police officer said to him, whose driver's license is this? And the man said, I don't have to tell you whose driver's license this is. And that is what this exchange is all about. Another user says, the officer's position is actually not out of place. The officer has spotted another license and is duty bound to ask you whose it is. The Sultan of Abuja says, denying the officer access to information on ID different from yours in your car is an offense. Don't even try to argue next time. Calling a uniformed personnel Mr. Man is also an offense. That happened in the video. He said Mr. Man. Now, why them say anything you say might be used against you? This one has evidence. You no try. I mean, if I was stopped and they asked me, whose driver's license is this? If it wasn't mine, I would answer. Another user says, I would love to see what would happen if they pull over a driverless car. No driver to demand particulars from. With Tesla on the rise in Nigeria, that might be a possibility soon. But the Police Act of 2020, Section 50, actually grants officers the right to stop, search, and detain people if they have reasonable suspicion of a crime. But the same act also grants citizens the right to refuse a search if they're not provided with a legal reason or a warrant. So this is a double-edged sword. Veronica and Ibrahim, what do you do? What entails a stop and search? And what do you do when you're stopped and searched? You ever ask questions or you just do the right thing?
Absolutely, just like you said. But then if you look at the Police Act of 2020, Section 29 speaks to it. Section 49 subsection 2 also speaks to it. And they talk about the police having the right to stop and search, especially when there is established reasonable suspicion. And then the officer must definitely show his identification, which is your right to ask for the identification. And remember, it is reasonable suspicion, not just out of his own volition. And then you also have the right to comply. But when you realize that there is misconduct, there is injustice, then you have the right to go to court. So these are your rights. So it's better that we understand these things rather than, attaching sentiments and all of that. But how do we have, we're talking about NAFDAC, how do we have people who are trying to make us, ensure that we are safe, that we use the right thing when it comes to taking drugs for our ailments or taking right drinks or other things, talking about NAFDAC? Why do we have to attack them? If we know that we are not concealing or hiding any contraband, anything that is against the law of this land, we should allow these people to do their job. Why do we have to attack them? So I think they need to, come down heavy on these people that are trying to kill us in this country.
And I'll weigh in on NAFDAC. I think that NAFDAC is doing a lot. It reminds me of Dora Akunyili and the efforts she made while she was alive, and in the process lost her life as a result of all of the issues around
trying to stop Patrick Sawyer.
Her effort to address these matters. It shows man's inhumanity to man. It also goes to show that this is not a government issue, it's an individual issue. How do you, with all your intentions, choose to kill people? You don't have to hold a gun, but you're already killing people with this kind of fake medication. There's no difference between you and an armed robber. There's no difference between
hired assassin
and an assassin. So that is what you're doing right now. It's unfortunate.
Absolutely, it is so terrible. I always say, stay safe out there, you guys. Mr. Akunyili left some very big shoes to fill, and it's good to see that NAFDAC is still trying to fill those shoes and doing the needful. In our next story, unfortunately, controversy is trailing the legacy of late Access Holdings CEO Herbert Wigwe, following allegations from his sister Joyce Wigwe. Now, in a viral video, Joyce has accused unnamed individuals suspected to be Herbert's children and friends of betraying, mistreating, and disrespecting their parents and siblings following her brother's passing. Take a look at this.
See what our enemies have done. People we thought were Herbert's friends, people we thought were Herbert's brothers, they have actually really let the family down. Daddy and mommy trusted in them implicitly, and we've come to see that they were not what we thought they were. And so because of it, Daddy actually fell ill. We almost lost him. Mommy broke down because of the trust they had reposed so much in them. So it's made the journey really, really difficult and heart-wrenching for them, because these were people Herbert drew really close to and brought home as his friends. So that's the journey we've been on. It's been difficult. And if you've watched over time and watched me there, you heard yesterday, they came here to the village with no due respect to the family. They didn't even as much as come to see the family. They wouldn't even let us into the gates.
The internal dynamics of the Wigwe family and the ongoing handling of the late billionaire's estate still remain unclear, but this video adds another layer to the growing tension that's surrounding Herbert Wigwe's legacy. Let's take a look at social media. Mr. Chair says, nah, the girl will get married, the wealth will move with her. I think that's what they're fighting. And Philomath says, imagine if Herbert's wife and son were not in the helicopter, they would have started running DNA tests. Historically in Igbo land, the Umuna would stop a female child from inheriting her father or her parents' money because they believed that she would marry into a different household. But with the landmark case in 2014 of Ukeje versus Ukeje, it changed customary rights for females in Igbo land as we know it. And Herbert was a visionary. I believe that if he could see the future of Access Bank Holdings, if he could see the future, then he could probably see the future of his own family unit. Veronica and Ibrahim, I'd love you to weigh in on this very quickly.
I think that this is a family issue, and I do not want to weigh in on it. It's sad that this development is happening. Perhaps I can only hope for the best for the family.
Absolutely, especially what they're fighting on. The owner is no longer alive. So whatever estate, whatever wealth, whatever it is, let's remember that we are not taking this, with us whenever we are out of this world. So
unfortunately,
we
have to wrap things up here now. So thank you, Olamide, for bringing us the stories.
Thank you, guys.
All right, this is where we draw the curtains on the program for today. Let's let you know that the views and reaction of all our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Up next is Your View with the ladies, and afterwards this morning with Yori Folarin. To stay safe, bye for now.